I was about 9 years old when it happened, and about 16 when I understood its importance. 23 when I finally met the man who crossed the Edmund Pettus Bridge in Selma, Alabama, beaten by police to within an inch of his life.
And Fred, you were of course referring to Congressman John Lewis of Georgia, a civil rights icon and the subject of a documentary entitled Good Trouble, all about the Bloody Sunday, which was a part of the march from Selma to Montgomery.
And joining us now to discuss this lofty project is the producer of this documentary, the co-founder of Color Farm Media, Erika Alexander. Welcome aboard.
Thank you so much. How are you doing, Fred and Laverne? It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for talking to me today.
Absolutely. Well, let's begin with why you titled your work Good Trouble.
Well, you know, Congressman John Lewis earned the Good Trouble moniker and icon status that it has the hard way. He committed his life to fighting for civil rights and justice for all. He did it without malice, armed with courage of his conviction, and the abiding philosophy of nonviolence, along with peaceful protest and love for the beloved community. So what you're talking about when you say good trouble is the need and the dedication and commitment to his life, that no matter what you are facing, you have an obligation to stick up for what is right. And he calls that good trouble, necessary trouble.
The congressman's long, of course, been a soldier in the fight for voters' rights, as is your Good Trouble campaign organization. What progress are you making in Georgia and in other states as far as that goes?
We're making a lot of headway. I mean, listen, right now it's really a very unprecedented time here in America for people of color, Black people, inside of civil rights. They've been fighting for that for a very long time, and he's one of the, as far as I'm concerned, founding fathers of America when it comes to that. We're grateful to be alive, and a lot of people have died. The virus has changed everything, and Hollywood is certainly shut down, but the fight for civil rights goes on. The COVID thing has made it particularly hard to talk about these things without looking through the lens of social justice. So that's what people are doing now, and there's been wonderful grassroots organizations that have been working on this, whether it's the Poor People's Campaign or One Fair Wage, Vote Run Lead. There are Stacey Abrams is doing Fair Fight. They're all talking about the right for people to have the vote, and that's exactly what he fought for his life. And they're doing it in all 50 states, so it's really a fantastic time to be alive, even though it's probably one of the most difficult times in our history to stay alive.
Can you give us a snapshot on what we'll see in the documentary and what we'll hear from John Lewis himself?
Yes, you know, I have to mention Dawn Porter, our director, has done a fantastic job putting John Lewis in the spotlight. It's squarely on the congressman, and people know him. He's kind of like the Forrest Gump of the civil rights movement because he's everywhere, and he's a fantastic supporting player in many of the people, whether it's Martin Luther King and they're talking about Bobby Kennedy. But here's the spotlight is on him because he is no Forrest Gump. He is a civil rights leader, and he deserves this time to allow the audience to finally focus on him, learn about him. He gets the opportunity to tell his story. We get to see what it's like growing up as a Black sharecropper in Alabama in a large, loving family. They own land. We laugh about how he honed his oratorical skills by preaching to the chickens. He tells us how he met Martin Luther King, who called him the boy from Troy, and his work as a student activist with SNCC, traveling through Jim Crow South as a freedom writer. This all leads to that fateful day that we have seen on Edmund Pettus Bridge, where white policemen stormed a peaceful march and cracked his skull, nearly killing him. So John Lewis survived all that to thrive, have a beautiful wife with his partner, Lillian Miles, and his son, John Miles. And he gets to tell his story now, and that's his story. It's good trouble, and he gets to tell that story.
Well, I can't wait to see it, but let me ask you this. There's talk of renaming the Edmund Pettus Bridge after Representative Lewis. Others say maybe we shouldn't do that, that he didn't cross the bridge alone, and perhaps the Freedom Bridge or some other title might be more fitting. What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's time to, they're looking at all of those things, and that's right to do. We have been, as far as I'm concerned, terrorized by keeping these names up. So I, for one, would vote for John Lewis to have that honor, because it's not just about a name or, you know, just a theory of freedom. He gave his and sacrificed his life inside his freedom, and he's here now. We can celebrate him. And there's nothing wrong with choosing a person to focus on and saying, this person lived their life. So I want people, when they have a chance to now honor the names that have made America truly great, to put those names on those schools. Just like the brother who was down in Baton Rouge saying this should no longer be Robert E. Lee High School. They should name it after somebody who stands for what America values. Don't call it Freedom School. Call it the name of the people that have made the sacrifices, and let's put those names in the lights and on the marquee of what we find to be our American institutions, educational and otherwise. So I'm voting for John Lewis. You can call it freedom. I think his name means freedom. Or Uhura, which, by the way, means freedom from Star Trek.
There you go.
Well, speaking of Star Trek, you know, you're a well-known actress as well, right? So we remember you from the 90s in Living Single as Maxine. And, of course, you've been on both sides of the camera. When and where can we see your documentary real quick as we wrap up? As much as I want to talk to you about being Maxine on Living Single, we have to bring you back for another time on that.
Let's do that. Let's do that. Thank you, Laverne. I'm glad to be here and tell you that it's July 3rd that it comes out. Look for the day and date on your streaming platforms, also in some theaters. It's going to be in drive-in theaters and places like that. Participant Media and Magnolia and CNN will start showing it September 27th. And also, eventually, it'll live in HBO Max. And thank you for everybody who supported us up until now. We are really very happy with all the different partners and people who participated in getting the word out about this. And thank you so much, Laverne and Fred, for allowing me to come and talk about this with you.
No, we're going to have you back. We're going to have you back. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Okay.
All right.
Take care.
Take care.
Brother.